was a very, very hard time because I was back and forth. Basically, what happened is a state track meet, state cross country meet. I ran cross country to build my endurance up. State cross country meet, I passed out. About 100 meters left in the race, I was in first place. I fell, woke up, started crawling, stood up, collapsed. It was a whole little theatric thing, right? So I finished. I was throwing up. They rushed me to the hospital. It was a crazy old deal. They didn't know what caused it. They didn't know what was wrong. So I have a family history of heart murmurs and heart conditions. So they did all these tests on me, and they decided that, until they figure out what's going on, I probably shouldn't do sports anymore. So I went to Houston to cardiologists, and they were like, hey, we're not going to clear you to do sports at this time. Just rest. And this is me now at my junior year after already, competing in my sophomore year and being introduced to the sport. My sophomore year, I won the state championship. Our team won the state championship. So going into my junior year now, you're telling me I can't ever do sports again. So at that point, it was a very, I was going through it. And so my mom got me through that. My mom got me through that time. Because I wasn't a big religious person. Right. And at that time, my mom was saying stuff that didn't make any sense to me. I was just like, mom would call me and be like, put your hand over your heart. I'm like, what? Put your hand over your heart. I'm going to pray for you through the phone. I'm like, but who are you talking about, man? Like, come on, man. So she used to do all that, and I ain't gonna lie. Like, at the time, it didn't make sense to me, but in hindsight, it kept me afloat. And then as I matured and as I started to see things work out, because again, I said 4 months before the state meet, I had a device implanted over my chest to monitor my heart rate. The reason why that was implanted over my chest is because initially they said I couldn't compete. They made my mom sign a waiver saying that the hospital wasn't liable if I decided to compete. So now we're going off of what the hospital says, and they said, okay, well, if you're going to do this, we want to monitor what's going on with your heart. So originally they placed the EKG. I had to put pads all over my chest and have a monitor on my hip. And I ran a track meet with all these wires bouncing. And I said, I can't do this. We went back to Houston, and they implanted it right over my chest. All right. So now I returned back, and I haven't been able to train this entire time. I returned back to training. We start running again, and 4 months later, I broke the state record. And so and I didn't train. So it was, again, you looking at being told you're never going to be able to compete again. Being told you in middle school, being told you weren't good enough to be to be participating in sports. Right. And then to see the barriers and then overcome the barriers and then the perseverance. It's just, to me at that point, I'm just like, okay, well, I think I kind of got this. And so that's where it started.
Right. That's where it started. I definitely want to go on to the with you breaking that record. Right. I watched that interview, and the lady says in the interview, because I think you were even shocked. But the lady said, like, pre in the interview, and I seen you, like, you kind of, like, glanced and smiled. She was like, yeah, somebody that, you just broke somebody's record that ran at LSU. And in your mind, it clicked. You were like, oh, yeah, well, if he can do it, I can do it too. That was kind of like your last words for the interview. And what's crazy is you're supposed to go to TCU, but, obviously, LSU came out with the red carpet, and they got you with the bottles and the girls or whatever, and but it was just crazy to that moment of, like, as soon as she said it, you didn't even think twice. You were like, nah, I can do it. But that's probably because when your mind, you mentally, you went through all this, so you like, nah, any obstacle I can overcome, because I just went through all this and I just broke this state record. Like, you're interviewing me, you don't even know what just happened. You know what I'm saying? And side note to that, a lot of people don't realize, because I live in Portland, I be trying to tell them, like, the hospital systems that we have is not like y'all's. Y'all are very much advanced. So, like, what people don't know is you were in Lake Charles with all this heart monitor stuff. You had to drive to Houston to get the stuff that's implanted. Like, we don't really have healthcare systems in place like that for us when we're sick, or for, you know what I'm saying? Like, especially out here, like, I've seen, they had a girl when I was in college. She got hit by a drunk driver. She was on her way to practice, and that impact, I was like, man, if she would have been Louisiana, you know, she probably would have died. Just because we don't even have those resources to have saved her like they did. You know what I'm saying? That's a real thing. Like, as you know, we all got family in Lake Charles. They get really sick, they going to Houston. Or they going to Dallas. Like, you know, we getting up out of there for sure. Like, nobody, like, you're not even enough to go to the hospitals. But yeah, like a lot of people don't understand. Like when you come from these smaller towns, like we really don't have the resources, and some people take that for granted. You know, and I had to tell some of my friends, hey, don't take what y'all have out here for granted, because you know we don't have those type of things.